Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Taipei, the heart of Taiwan, a place still at war with communist China. Beijing say there is one China, they own Taiwan and all of the mainland. Taiwan surprisingly agree, in the constitution anyway. For decades they've tried to get back the mainland. Their leader, Chiang Kai-shek, rejected US proposals for independence. He even met with Beijing several times to try to get them reunified. Of course, it didn't work. And now, the current government are steering away from that to be independent. And a lot of the Taiwanese, and even a lot of foreigners, they will say that it is a country. And I want to take those main talking points of why they say that and dissect it and look at it from the Chinese perspective, a perspective which we don't really see often. So I hope that this gives you a unique look at things. And remember that this is not Russia and Ukraine. People think Russia are bad, Ukraine are good, and take it on a linear scale and say Taiwan good, China bad. But remember, they are totally different examples. Let's explain why. Where am I at now, you might ask? The Chiang Kai-shek Memorial Hall. Who is he, you might ask again? Well, there is a great big statue of him, so he must be pretty important to Taiwan. Yeah, he is. He was the leader of the ROC. So he governed China for quite a while. And he lost the war, essentially, to Mao Zedong. So he heavily outnumbered the communists. The military power was much greater. They had much more money and resources. But they lost the war. The communist tactics were far greater. And so Chiang Kai-shek, he had to flee. He had to flee the mainland, and he came to Taiwan. And that leads us on then to one of the main arguments, the historical argument. Has Taiwan historically been part of China? Yes, absolutely. China historically owned Taiwan during the Qing dynasty. So the Qing government ruled this place for many years until their fall, where the ROC, led by Chiang Kai-shek, that guy over there inside, he ruled it. But then, World War II, Japan colonized Taiwan. So essentially it was Japanese for quite a while. But after the war, they then handed it back to China. Not PRC, not ROC, but to China, meaning the land of China. That was the official wording. Now, some people will say the PRC, the communists, never controlled Taiwan. They've not had the full authority over Taiwan. Only the ROC have. So how can the PRC claim Taiwan? Well, that's kind of like saying just because Trump built the wall, he was the Republican, then now because it's a Democratic party, the USA didn't build it. It was another party entirely. You know, it just doesn't make sense. This is historically Chinese, this land, okay, whether it's ROC or PRC. And although the Civil War has officially not really ended, there's been no kind of treaty, the ROC were the ones who fled. They were the ones who left the mainland. They left. So from that sense, you would argue that they lost, and it should be owned by the PRC. And so from that sense, that is why the PRC would claim it to be theirs. And crucially, guys, majority of countries around the world, only a handful of exceptions, so America, Japan, England, France, Germany, all of these places, they all recognize one China, and that the PRC, the Communist Party, they are the government of China. So all of these places have no diplomatic relations with Taiwan. And so, yeah, Taiwan, they're not part of the UN. So in that sense, you'd say they are not a country. Okay, so there we go, guys. Now, guys, I might be just outside the most important place in Taiwan, the presidential building. This is where Tsai Ing-wen works. You can see right at the top is a little flag. That is the flag of the Republic of China. And so many people use this building as definitive proof that Taiwan is a country. They have their own government. They will also say they have their own military, their own currency, their own passports. These are proof that Taiwan is a country. But actually, they are nothing arguments. They do not prove Taiwan is a country, because there are many places in the world which have all those things and are not countries. And because I'm a British guy, the first couple of places that come to my mind are number one, the Falkland Islands, and number two, the Isle of Man. They have deep connections and relations to Britain, but they are not countries. So they both have their own governments, their own rules, their own laws. The Isle of Man, they had completely different legal system to Britain. I think they had the death penalty up until recently, but yeah, they have their own currency, which doesn't mean you are a country. I mean, some places have Bitcoin as their legal tender, but does that mean Satoshi, he controls the country? No, not at all. So that's a rubbish argument. Yeah, they have their own language, at least the Isle of Man does. They have the Manx language, and also the Isle of Man, they have their own passports. See, I think these reasons are pretty rubbish, arguing whether it's a country or not. Now, the major difference between Taiwan and the Isle of Man is that the Isle of Man cannot defend itself if someone were to invade. So that would be the responsibility of Britain. Britain would look after them if they were to invade. So Isle of Man doesn't have its own military. Taiwan does have its own military. People will use this as a reason for Taiwan being a country, because why would you have missiles facing your own country? If Taiwan were part of China, why would they have militaries facing themselves? But the key thing is that Taiwan and China, they are still in the midst of a civil war. Of course, they're going to be fighting each other. Historically, this place is part of China. This land is part of China. They're just fighting each other.
Oh, okay. Half. Okay, 谢谢你。好的。
Okay, 谢谢. Right, so I just got kicked out of the place. They weren't too happy. They were asking me, what kind of video am I making? What's the theme? Of course, I couldn't tell them. I just said, oh, it's about Taiwanese history and culture and everything. But they told me I need to move on. So let's go. And so I can offer some better examples of places which have all of the above, all of the same as Taiwan, but they are not countries. So for example, Transnistria, they have their own government, their own military, their own currency, their own passport, but alas, they are not a country. They are in Moldova. We also have other places, Nagorno-Karabakh, Somalia, Northern Cyprus, all of these places, they are not countries, you know? So these reasons definitely cannot be used to argue that Taiwan is a country. That shows they are extremely weak arguments. There we go then, guys. Taipei, Taiwan. A beautiful place, really, and I really encourage people to go because there's so many natural sceneries to go, and there's a lot of historical things, a lot of culture. There are a lot of museums too, which I thought were really fascinating actually, so I got a lot of the information from there, trying to learn the Taiwanese perspective. And hopefully this video gave you guys a different perspective on this matter. You're probably going to see the Taiwan-China issue a lot in the news, so I think it's a good idea to learn about the history, not just from one media source. Try to, if you can, get it from the Chinese, Taiwanese, and some of the Western media as well. Try to get the full picture, that's what I always say. But anyway guys, that's the end of the video. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.